when you see those kinds of reactions, you know what it means to people to hear these words anew.
It is life-changing because you are literally doing something that is changing the course of your life.
We do think about it in the theory of the voice and, thinking about maybe slightly more philosophically. But you have to come back to...
Sometimes.
But you have to come back to the fact that your voice is part of you.
Welcome to the alumni and current students MA, MFA Voice Studies roundtable. Brilliant you could all come. I know life's busy out there. The main thing we want to know is what's going on. What's going on for you after you've left the course, immediately, what it's like into the future, because I know all of you left at different points. And I want to open the table up to our current student at times to say, ooh, wow, this is what's coming up, what do I feel? So it's a general discussion freely, but I think the first is to kick off and hear from each of you who you are, your names, and then kind of what you've been doing that will be interesting for people to know about. So over to you.
I'm Alice White and I graduated last year, 2018, so I'm a recent graduate of the MA Voice Studies course. And I've sort of been thrown into the industry and I'm working at a couple of different actor training institutions across acting courses, actor musician courses and musical theatre courses
the deep end,
as well.
Right?
Absolutely.
The deep end, yeah.
Straight in there. And then I'm also doing some private coaching with clients, mainly on accent work and then a bit of corporate stuff as well. So really getting a feel for all the different types of work that's out there and getting some things right and getting some things wrong and having a wonderful time.
Learning by doing,
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no other way,
feels
right?
Good. Yeah.
Let's move on round to see who else we've got around the table.
Hello, I'm Hazel.
Hi,
and
Hazel.
I left in 2014. So I've been out nearly 5 years. I've been free.
We liberated,
And so I was stuck straight in working on productions because in another life I've been an actor and I still am, but previous life I was just an actor and singer. Say just.
No,
I was an actor
you
and singer.
were in full capacity,
yes.
own it.
And so I immediately left MAVs and went straight into working on productions. And my very first production was at the Gate, and then I did a few other productions.
Was that quite quickly after graduating?
Yes, it was literally the month after.
Oh, okay.
The month after, and then by the end of that year, I was at the National Dialect Coaching on Ma Rainey. And so that for me was kind of like, I remember really overdoing the handout, it was like a 15 page handout.
Yeah, showing your credentials. I could do this. Yeah, brilliant. Well, good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I learnt a lot on that job.
Yeah.
Learnt a lot on
It was
that.
the big learning one, was it?
It was the big learning one.
And it set you into quite a pathway, hasn't it, since then?
Yeah,
really?
absolutely.
We'll hear more about that. I look forward to that. Over to you.
Hello, I'm Katie Heath. I graduated last year, but not with Alice. I did the MFA 2-year course.
Which we'll talk about in a minute, the distinction
between those two. So I am, also a recent graduated. I've said yes to everything.
Yeah.
I've just pretty much, as a process of elimination, to just kind of discover what it is I do want to do and what it is I don't want to do. So many people, lecturers were saying to me last year and other students were saying to me, what do you want to do? And I was like, I don't know. I really don't know. So I just went yes to everything that was offered. So I've done quite a lot. I've said yes to working on a theatre production, doing the dialect for that show was at the Southwark Playhouse and it's now transferring, so I did that quite quickly. I said yes to every bit of cover work that was on offer, so I've been to see quite a few drama schools. I've been teaching consistently on the musical theatre course at one drama school.
In London?
Yes, in London, and it's been wonderful because I've been able to see how my schema of work evolves.
A good
and
run-in.
the way in which I teach something. So it was practical voice one term, and this term it's been accents. And to see the work land, I was talking about it with you earlier, has been actually quite precious. It's been brilliant.
Just see it makes a difference.
Well, just to see them evolve and go, oh, they're doing it because I've taught them that. So that's been lovely.
The rewards.
The rewards are great. The rewards. Corporate voice has been fantastic, and that's where you see how voice work makes a difference, which has been extraordinary. And I'm now coaching on my first TV show.
Marvellous. So we've got TV, we've got drama schools, we've got private coaching.
Yes, so that's been great.
Marvellous, Katie. Sam, just give us a little update on your current status as a student.
Yeah, my name's Samuel Malone, and I am a first-year MFA student, and I'm just loving the program. I'm on placement at a few different places, and just in the thick of it. So
yeah, that's why we thought it'd be useful to have, you know, where you can get to and what it's like emerging. So let's hope that will be useful to the conversation. So the main thing is we've heard a bit about what you're doing, different years out. I think if there's anything you can add about collaborations that this course leads to, who do you intersect with in the industry? What has this course given you that allows you to move in different kinds of professional circles? We'd really love to just hear detail about that from each of you, some kind of specific incident, if you like, or circumstance of employment.
So I picked up some cover at Rose Bruford.
Okay.
They needed a day of cover, and I went in and I just listened to some people doing some accents, gave some feedback. As far as I was aware, that was it. And then from that, I've now been offered work and I'm working there.
So it got you through the door?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was covering for someone who'd graduated from MAVS a few years ago, so you've got that common link immediately. And then it's led, straight into actually teaching now on the programmes, teaching the students that I was covering for. And it feels just like a really nice way into some of these buildings that otherwise you just have to sort of knock on the door as a bit of a faceless, nameless person.
It's very difficult, isn't it, to get that entry into that sector?
Absolutely.
You know, because I'm working with people who are been actors for years and want to sort of move into this sector, but it's helpful to have a key in, an educational route, a practice route in, and someone you know in the organisation.
Absolutely. Knowing that you've just done the course, knowing what the course entails, they go, okay, I can trust you to do this and to deliver it.
And you'll handle it.
Yeah, and you know, first year out teaching, there's moments of going, oh my gosh, why are you trusting me to do this?
Yeah,
and you go in the room and then you go, oh, I can do it.
That's
okay,
only human,
good.
isn't it? It's only human. You sort of know you've got more under your belt than you actually realise at times. Hazel, how about you? Is there anything specific you can give us on that one?
I'm thinking about, I mean, I've had similar experiences where I've been covering for people. I would say, I mean, ironically, I covered for someone in my very first week on MAVS at Guildhall.
You were on the course and you covered, well, it does happen, doesn't it?
and so that was nice. And so that was a nice contact that you're then making through the training. But also on various things where someone's working on a television show and there's a day that they can't do, and because again they trust the people who have been on the course and been through the training, so then you know it's not like you have to almost prove anything before you go there. It's like you have that initial trust
sort of
immediately.
Passport in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
So the thing I'm really interested in is how this course gives you, someone like you who's got such a lot of experience, like most of you, you've come in with something and the course gives you something, but you give the course something. What would you say quintessentially did the course give you when you went out already an experienced professional?
Structure.
Okay.
That for me is the key, because being an actor in the business, you look to other people to structure, you know, the production, structure how you're, all of that. And so for me, especially being dyspraxic and dyslexic, having Tanya Zeibert's, you know,
a learning skills coordinator here at Central,
really helping to guide me through what I felt at the time was a mountain kind of facing me of terminology, of things that I was kind of doing naturally, but not necessarily knowing exactly what I was doing. And so it's just that thing of you look at it as voice. And one of the things that she really helped me to understand was to really break things down into their separate components. So breath, resonance, articulation, you know, opening up the voice, even, you know, so just kind of filtering that down so that I left in a place that I was able to communicate with people very clearly.
I think that's one of the main features of academia in our field, is that it helps you organise a massive amount of experience the stuff you feel, the stuff you know's in the room, and how you organise it. I'm always glad to hear that it's useful. Do you know what I mean? That we connect to the things that are really useful. Katie, I know you want to say something about that.
No, I had a very similar experience because I wasn't diagnosed.
Should we explain who Tanya is? Because I think for people, because it's
the queen.
It's the key feature of our learning and teaching centre.
I mean, I dedicated my dissertation to her because I just knew that I would not have reached that point without her.
Yeah.
Okay. That's helpful to hear.
So I met Tanya in my first term on MAVs. I filled in a piece of paper that basically said I needed to get assessed. I hadn't been assessed before as dyslexia or dyspraxia or ADD for that matter.
Same here.
Turned out I was the triple threat. So I guess, and I think I've told you this.
Which isn't unusual for the learners, the adult learners that come on our course, because you're all talented performers and it come to face academia and you need some help. So
and I think with what I think what I got from Tanya, but also got from the other senior lecturers on the course is metacognition. I was learning how I learn, and therefore I was learning how to teach. Yeah, you are only ever going to teach a student or a classroom full of students in the way that you learn. So the most important thing I took away from this course, amongst a lot of things, was exactly structure, but it's going, how do I learn? Because that's going to be how I teach, and therefore that's going to be my pedagogy. So what evolved was, all the things that we instinctively know as an actor, that's already in your body, that you think, well, I know how to do this. Actually, we do, but we don't know how to teach it. And you've got to come away from this course truly, yes, with all that body of knowledge, but how are you going to impart it and use it in a room to get a whole group of students to take that from you and be able to shift?
So the structure enables you to do the various things that voice leads you to do, to teach or to coach, and also to work with others in a sort of, so you can say, what am I bringing to the table?
Of course. You can be the most knowledgeable person. You could know where everything goes and what everything does, and you can hear all the accents, but if you don't know how to structure that and to impart it,
how to communicate
it,
with
or in order
with an
to,
individual,
then what's the point? Really, I mean, and I think that's what makes a good teacher. So I do believe that what this course does is that it does teach you how to teach well, and then you by having that. So I was obviously working side by side with Tanya, and then the other senior lecturers, but you're able to sort of translate that work and go, okay, well, I'm going to take that work and I'm going to teach it like this. I'm going to take that work and teach it like this, because every teacher on this course has got a different teaching style.
So that's interesting. So there's a range of options that you're working with because it's modelled for you. And I know the course, we deliberately structure it so you're going to hear from people who've been out there a long time, model their practice, got quite a name, people just starting out but have some really interesting structural ideas. Actually, Sam, it'd be nice to have you in here because as you just starting out on your placements as a current student on this course, can you see the teaching models that are available that have been useful already to you?
So I feel like the course is a very rich learning environment in the sense that there's a lot of experiential learning, there's a lot of like lectures and different styles of lecturers there and techniques. So when I'm even on placement right now, I find maybe with one student, one thing doesn't work, but a different style of learning might meet their needs, or I'm starting to think, how can I meet my learners' needs and ask them for feedback on my teaching? So it's been really rich that way.
And you come with a very strong sense of what do your learners need. Can you just tell me a little bit why you've got that perspective? Because I'm really interested in what people bring to the course itself.
So I don't really have as much of a arts background. I have a little bit of an arts background, but my undergrad was in business, international business and Chinese, and my master's was in adult learning.
Yes.
Where I focused mostly on shame in learning, and so how do learners learn? How do we shame them into learning?
Okay.
And so
this is really interesting because I want to move on to this next bit, which is really about how you bring yourself to the course and make a difference to the learning environment, to your peer group. So I wonder if we could just think in our minds about what kind of experience you felt you had on the course, what it was like being in that learning group, the ups and downs. I mean, it's not always going to be a simple thing. Learning isn't always simple or easy, but anything you can bring to the fore, bearing in mind that it's an interdisciplinary course. We've said that. We've short named it MAVs, but it's actually the MA MFA in Voice Studies. And we've got a new name now, which is the MFA Voice Studies Teaching and Coaching. So all the things that we're talking about into the profession are exactly what we say we do on the tin. But it's so interesting to know that it does, you know, how does it do what it says it does on the tin? So let's just take a little bit of memory time and think about being in the learning cohort, going through this experience as an ensemble. I always think you are an ensemble, you know. Tell me about anything that you can say about that experience.
I definitely came from having done actor training.
Yeah.
So having been probably the type of student that a lot of people who do MAVs will go on to teach.
Yeah.
And so was really used to the environment, the drama school environment.
Even sick of it? No.
No, weirdly.
No, you were ready for more.
I know. I was
nice coming back to a drama
I just want to lie on the floor and roll around a bit and all that sort of stuff. So for me, I was so able to throw myself into that side of the work, the experiential learning, because I was used to it.
Tell us where you were before.
So I studied at the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama, which is now the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland.
Yeah.
So I did their acting BA, and then worked as an actress for then about 8 years before coming onto this course. So had the, I guess, the practical experience of the voice stuff without any of the teaching experience really, other than bits and bobs, little bits of directing, little bits of coaching, but the sort of formal teaching aspect. So for me, the rolling around on the floor, get up and make a noise, see what happens, I was like, yeah, I can do that. That feels really easy.
I'm at home with this, yeah.
But the shift into some of the more academic stuff for me was the bigger leap, actually.
You mean in the academic, the things we were talking about, coordinating, organising, sequencing the material? Is that,
and
not to frighten everyone, it's not so academic that it's not relevant.
But I think that, and sort of the anatomy and things like that, so at first I definitely was like, whoa, I don't know, this isn't, but I loved it. I came to love that. The research, I never thought I'd love research, but I absolutely loved it. And if I look back at my cohort, my group, we had such a wide variety of people coming into it. You get quite a lot of actors, quite a lot of people who come from a performance background, but we had a welder.
Who was a welder? I know. I didn't see that on the CV.
Someone. I'm trying to think. People would come from more teaching experiences, all these different things, and so for them, the rolling on the floor stuff was terrifying.
Yes.
And so you have to sort of support each other through that and know that at any point someone's going to be having a wobble.
Yeah.
But it might not just be at the same time as you.
Fortunately,
yeah. Otherwise, every now and then there might be a day when everyone's gone, but everyone's having the wobble. But I think what I was able to bring to it was the sort of actory head. And so that's helped me in terms of then being able to go as an actor, as then teaching actors now, what is the useful stuff? How do you make sure that this is useful and practical for them in what they want to apply it to? Because not everyone I teach is going to be as in love and obsessed with voice work as I am. No. So I have to kind of make it and it's so important that we have that experience in the cohort, that this is going to make sense, and you need to feel certain things and creative approaches for actors as our sort of template model, and then you can feed out and read out from that model. Because it definitely does. It can go anywhere really, but that is the sort of core central, I guess, model student is the that you're thinking about is probably an actor in training. Probably is an actor in training, really. Makes a lot of sense. And has it felt very different for you coming out of a different background?
Well, I love not being in the corporate world, in the sense that people used to get upset with me singing and yawning because I was doing voice stuff on the side, like to fulfill that need, I guess, and that's why I came to the course. What I think has been most amazing, though, is kind of what Alice alluded to, is the variety of people. So we have a speech and language pathologist, people who are more into accents. We have someone on our course who is less sighted or like legally blind. And so it's really interesting learning how everyone kind of comes together and then meets their needs that way, and everyone has their own strengths.
So if I may pick up on that, so the diversity of the cohort is part of its rich learning environment, and I think the awareness is that we're learning about that, teaching that when you go out, you're not going to be having the usual cohort. There is no usual cohort. There's no usual client in a sense. We've got to take people as we find them and deal with that kind of on the hoof, if you like. So does anyone want to speak more about something about what they brought to the cohort?
Well, here's an liveliness.
I was going to say, for me, it was definitely being an actor and performer,
Yeah.
singer, that gung-ho kind of, oh yeah, I'll get up and be first, I don't mind, I don't
Yeah.
care, you know.
Take a risk.
Taking the risk, and kind of that feeling of gathering people's energy, you know. And sometimes you don't think you're doing that, but then other people tell you
That you've done
exactly
that. You've provided that fulcrum.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So because, you know, you can get into your own head, and sometimes I did, in the sense that, again, for me, the academia was kind of like, you know, I can do exactly all the rolling around, all the taking of the text and bringing that to life, fine. But then suddenly being able to say, now your practice is research, and you have to go off and, you know, and spend 2 days by yourself, you know, researching something. My brain is just going,
How do I do that? Yeah.
keep bringing that back, bringing that back. So I know that for me, I my organisational skills in terms of gathering energies was really part of my strength in the group.
Marvellous. Katie, how about you?
It's an odd one because I didn't know what I brought. Everybody seemed to tell me what I did. You said it to me during, I think, the text module, and you sort of turned around and went, and I think I read a poem out, and you went, let's all remember that Katie's had quite a lot of experience on stage, and I went, have I? Oh yes, I have. And it's the things that you actually, as an actor, I think, when you've had an actor training, because I trained as an actor with Jane as my voice teacher, it's those things that sometimes you take for granted. And I had to be, and I also was reminded about it on my placement, and about why said person said, please come and teach on my course. I need an actor, and I need someone who understands the actor's process and the student actor's process, and also someone has had the level of one-to-one experience, one-to-one coaching experience that you've had. And I went, God, yeah, I've been doing that a really long time, 15 years before I did this. And I had, because I came to this course going, this is new, this is something new I'm doing, I disregarded every bit of my experience when I started. And actually what I was reminded to do was, no, Katie, you have to bring all of that into the room. It's what they want. So I didn't know until it had to be pointed out.
How interesting. Because, you know, adult learners, which most of you are well advanced in terms of your careers, not necessarily in age, but, you know, you know who you are a little bit. Well, I always assume you know who you are, because that's why you're here, because you bring such gifts and such talents.
But it's exactly as Katie was saying. For me, it's because it was the new experience. I was forgetting that actually the experience of life was actually what had brought me to this new experience. And that was what was needed in order to, sometimes you don't even realise, I mean, it's even near the end of the course where someone said to me, you know, you really helped to liberate me. And I was like, what? What?
I know.
But it's so fundamental, that, isn't it? And I think I sometimes underestimate the fact that you all, as talented, richly experienced individuals, need to be reminded more often than I think to bring that to the table, that it is valid, because this course is nothing. It's a description on a sheet of paper until you animate it with your experience and your background. That's what makes the voice coaches that we turn out, individual voice coaches, based on making sure that your experience is valued and present in the output.
A big part of the course as well, I think, and it can take a bit of time to tune your head into it, is reflecting on it all the time, so much reflection. So by the end of the course, your both previous experience, your experience on the course, your experience of the people that you're with, their experience of you, is really there, and you know it. And when you leave, I think you take it all with you out into whatever you go on and do next. But that reflection all the time, and being able to reflect and go, I didn't like that class, I didn't know what that was, but what is it about? Was it me that I didn't, was it something about me that made me not like it? Was it something about the day? Was it just that I didn't particularly like the teacher? All those things are valid things for you to inquire into and to sort of mine into a little bit. So you then analyse your own experience that you have brought in. Once you're aware of it and going, okay, it's valid, then you have to question it a little bit more and think about what you bring in a different way. And the IPP project that you do at the end of or towards the end
independent
of
practical project, which
Yeah.
sums up a lot of your
Yeah.
investigation, doesn't it? Yeah, at the end.
I
Yeah.
got that
Yeah,
down.
you
Yeah,
present
yeah,
for
yeah.
20 minutes on
Great.
your experience, on your voice, and an element of it that's important to you, and sitting and watching everybody, listening to everyone's presentations, doing that, and the process of doing that for yourself, it's incredible. And at the beginning of the course, you'd never think you could do that.
You wouldn't think you'd be ever ready.
No.
I think there's something about the nature of the fact that you spend doing this MA, you are full-time.
Yes.
And I think that
Yes.
is the difference between doing a full-time course or a part-time course or an evening course. When something is that intensive, it was very odd for me, and I'm sure for the rest of you, to come out of your life as it has been, whether or not it's been in full-time employment or you've been self-employed, and you have this pattern to your life, and then all of a sudden you're going, I'm going into this course. And I'm doing this course for me, and this is about me and my development. It's unlike anything else I have experienced actually in my adult life, to really, and so, you know, people talk about MAVs being life-changing. It
MA
is.
Voice Studies.
MA Voice Studies.
MAVs to you.
MAVs to me, about life-changing. It is life-changing because you are literally doing something that is changing the course of your life, and you are returning to you, and you're having to return to you. You're having to experience something, you're having to self-reflect, and you're given the time.
I think
to
that's a really,
self-reflect.
really important thing I think that we can bring to the table here, is this notion. People often say it changes their lives. The little cards I get, sometimes people say best year of life so far, but it's how do we speak to that? And I'm interested, is it because the course gives you this time to both bring yourself to the table, all your expertise, swirl it around a bit with a whole random group of people you didn't know before you arrived, and maybe there is that experiential bit that you get to experience it. It's not just by your head only. You're crashing around together, using that word, you know, you're moving around together, so it gets in the body. Is this what it is?
Yeah, but it not only gives you the time, but it requires you.
Yes.
You know, you're signing up for this. You have to commit, and you will only get out what you give in. Granted, and you will fail if you don't do the work. So you do have to do the work. You can try and resist it, and you know you could probably subconsciously resist quite a lot of it. But actually, you've got some incredibly passionate lecturers on this course who've been doing it a long time, who are going, no, you've got to do it. You're on this. Come along, come on this journey. So whether or not you...
It's not a backseat MA in that way, is it?
No, it's not.
No.
I mean,
It's
what
all
I would
consuming.
it's all consuming.
Consuming.
And that's the difference between an MA and a BA, having done my BA 150 years ago. But the thing is about the MA is it's like, come on, jump on board, we're going.
Yeah.
If you want to. If you don't want to, then I would say to people, what's the point?
And as an and you're returning quite often, a significant amount of time
Yeah,
since
as
you
you
finished
said.
your last bit of study.
BA, what was 7, 8
So
years out,
yeah.
and then, you know, it's a while, isn't it? It's a mature decision.
And so then you have to go in and and I think that can be a bit of a shock to people, is suddenly, I have to confront myself in this as well.
Yeah.
And
that's where the resistance
and bits of myself that I didn't know were going to come up. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
So
Identity.
So my training back then, there'd been a moment of my tongue being demonised, you know, and so I'd spent a long time in a place of not feeling confident about the way I spoke, and so one of the reasons why, from my initial kind of tentative look at doing the course, why it took me a while, was because I knew I had to really be able, as you were saying, to be able to look at myself in a way that was kind of actually non-judgmental. And once I kind of came to terms with that, and then was on the course, and actually my IPP was all about my tongue's journey.
It's quite extraordinary
And
project.
Yes,
Final that you gave,
and it absolutely released me. So for me, it was life-changing in that respect, because I then had a new relationship with myself.
And that is so extraordinary that it gives you, and is designed to give you that opportunity. But I think when you start, you don't realise that it's there for you to confront those things in as light or as deep a way, but to articulate it and to go through something, because then that you're allowed to emerge with an MA in such a different way than just by your head only. You've actually gone into something about yourself.
And because it acknowledges the fact that the voice is deeply personal. And because we sort of do think about the voice in those sort of scientific terms. We think about it in practical terms, but we do think about it in the theory of the voice, and, you know, thinking about maybe slightly more philosophically. But you have to come back to sometimes. But you have to come back to the fact that your voice is part of you. And so,
and you have to be moving with it and yourself
Absolutely.
as you go forward as a coach, a teacher.
Exactly.
A sequence of experiential relationships, really, that the course activates, doesn't it? And keeps activating. We're much more aware now as teachers, and hopefully that's something we're really imparting as part of our teaching and learning.
Don't we? We just have to be. We have to be more aware. And we and we have to be inclusive. It's what is being required of us.
And it just was not apparent. It hadn't risen into the system in 20, 30 years ago. So we are moving with the times in that respect. And I just want to know really what impact that's had on you in terms of the groups you work with or the types of learners. Just anything more about that. The course has drawn attention to how we do something in different ways.
Well, you have to keep educating yourself. And I think I learnt that in my MFA year. I remember coming to you just going,
This is your second.
this is my second year, and I was on placement, and I suddenly became very aware of RP bias in schools. And
So that's received pronunciation. For those who don't know, the kind of standard of a. Would you like to sum it up quickly?
The prestige of
The
an
prestige of an accent.
It's a constructed accent. It's a constructed dialect
non-geographical.
Non-geographical, and you could buy it if you were of a certain social class. Back in the late 1800s, you could buy this accent. I think I became very self-conscious about going into certain schools and being the ideal that students were looking at. And
the modelling. That
and just knowing, therefore, I became self-conscious and almost to a certain level ashamed. And I think you just have to educate yourself.
It's part of that thing that the course invites you to do, be reflective in a deep sense and really look at all aspects of what you're presenting and when you walk into a room. So we really need to know why Central attracted any of you. I mean, I can see possibly why, but let's just hear a little bit from each of you. Why Central? Go round, Alice.
Seemed to be the best place to go. I
For
think
this
it was
particular
for this
course,
course that if I looked at voice coaches that were working, having different careers, they all did this course at some time or other. So, and the history and the fact that it's rooted in Central, this incredible building, incredible drama school, it has the history that it has. It just seemed like the only place to go.
Cool. Hazel, what about you?
For me, again, it was the history of the place, and not just the voice coaches, but the actors as well that I knew had come through Central. But also it was about the course being full-time immersive course, because there are other opportunities, but they were part-time, and I actually wanted to be able to immerse myself in the course.
Step out and do it. Yeah, cool. Katie, how about you?
Jane Boston. Jane taught me at RADA. I stalked her to here. It's the only place to come. I mean, there are other schools running courses, but why would you go there when you can come here? This is where the greats went. This is where Sis Berry was. This is where Kristin Linklater was. This is,
Jeanette Nelson.
Jeanette Nelson, all of them. Elsie Fogarty.
What about,
I mean, why?
So history counts,
So
right?
the course
culture,
history
the
comes.
chemistry,
They taught this person taught you. We're going to come somewhere.
It's that baton, isn't it? You
It
pass
is.
on,
You keep passing
it comes from
that
credentials.
baton,
That's
and I
cool.
just don't think any other school really has quite. It's the community as well. It's that.
There's definitely, I have to say, to add on to that, is that I wanted a sense of community, and I looked at other courses and I interviewed at other courses, but I wanted to come here because I wanted to be in a community class as well as a community, rather than just be,
That's really, it's really helpful to hear that, because I think we often wonder what this postgraduate community does, how it's read out there.
It's
but,
phenomenal, and you don't.
All these different degrees at postgraduate level.
We were saying that a life
performance.
of a voice coach is quite lonely, but the time that I don't feel lonely is when I know that I can get in touch with someone like Hazel, or I can see Alex, and people that have been before. They're always reaching out. It's a nice community.
And then we're tasked to make sure that community features everybody. You know, it's inclusive.
exactly.
Sam, how about you in terms of community and central?
I chose Central because a lot of my voice teachers back home, they said this is the only place to go. So Canada doesn't actually have a voice program. It's shut down. So there's no voice program there. And then they're like, well, if you're going to go anywhere, you should apply at Central. And so for that reason, because I have so many voice mentors back home, that was where they all had recommended. That's where I applied to. It was actually the only place, so I'm very lucky. And London.
Yeah,
I come from
London
like
features, doesn't it? Yeah, it's great.
Well,
London, sure.
I come from a little bit of a rural city-ish in Canada. It's not the biggest city. It's beautiful, but here there's so much theater everywhere. There's culture. There's food. There's a nightlife. You can get everywhere on the tube, and you don't have to drive 80 kilometers an hour, everywhere.
So we've given you a few bonuses on top of learning environment. So in that bonus, then I think it's important to say that the placement, the going out and trying to try your trade out there in the drama schools. Any accounts about placements, any rough roads or happy roads, placement in the first year and attachments in the second year if you're doing the MFA? Any stories of making connections that can interest us? You're doing something interesting.
Yeah, so right now I'm working on a project with Gendered Intelligence, so LGBTQ plus community group, I believe. And so we're looking to do some gendered voice work, so working with people that might be non-binary or transitioning, or even just LGBTQ in general, so whether that's like finding that sense of voice maybe when they are coming out of the closet, because at least from my experience, it can seem a bit of like a change of your own identity and then finding your voice again, so really trying to find a way to maybe find an empowered voice or find a voice that reflects their gender. Yeah.
Great, that's fantastic, marvellous. Katie, you were laughing about placements
Oh,
or
just it
journeys
felt
into...
like a baptism of fire. It was just that thing of, oh God, I was thrown straight in. I hadn't had a huge amount of experience of, completing a schema of work to a classroom full of students, and then I just got thrown into it with musical theatre students, 20 students in 3 classes back to back. Wow. And I was screaming into a pillow at the beginning of the day, just going, how am I going to do this? And then you come out and you're like, I can do it. Yeah. And actually, my first placement ended up being my attachment in my MFA year. And it was one of the best experiences. And I was with second year actors at the same place, but in my MFA year.
It is so interesting where placement leads to attachment, leads to then hopefully some career.
Yes, and they have asked me back, but I couldn't take it up. But I do know
You've got a foot in the door.
I have got a foot in the door, and but it was great. I mean, especially in my MFA year where you're doing your SIP, also known as your sort of dissertation,
your final piece,
and so you were trying everything out on these students, and they were so generous and opened up those ideas to that. So that was wonderful. But yeah, the placements are amazing. Yeah,
it's a strong feature. We work hard to make sure we are connected to industry, to the conservatoires, and keep moving with the times. So it's good to know it really does work. Anything from you guys about hopping out there? Where did you go?
I went to lots of places. I was quite demanding, surprisingly, because my first placement wasn't going to start until halfway through the term, and I was like, I'm just going to drive myself mad building up to this. So I was like, anything else that comes along, and then I ended up voice coaching a Shakespeare production for the first one, which was great, and that was proper baptism of fire, and having to go, this is the stuff that as an actor I found useful, but maybe this isn't quite working for them, and having to do one-on-one work and lead warm-ups and note a show and all of that sort of stuff. I also then ended up teaching some accents straight away, which was terrifying because we hadn't yet learned how to teach accents, and I was like, okay, let's go.
The curriculum,
so I was doing General American somewhere and RP somewhere else, and then where else did I go? And then I was doing one-on-ones and my second placement at RADA, which I'd have, I think, about 8 half-hour one-to-ones back to back, and then I'd go home and just go straight to sleep.
Yeah.
I'd just be like, oh my gosh, it was exhausting. But it was incredible because I wouldn't know what they were going to bring into the room until they got into the room. They'd say, this week I want to work on this. And I go, okay, well, that wasn't what we discussed last week, but okay, let's do it.
And from a course leader point of view, these organisations trust us to introduce you with credible credentials, and we know you can do it. Hazel, you're going to jump in there.
I was going to say the same. My first placement, RADA, and it started out as one-to-ones, but I always knew that my nemesis was always going to be speaking to a group of people. So I had to
that was mine as well.
Exactly. So I had to confront that. So I organised within the one-to-ones that there was a central point within those one-to-ones where everyone would come together, and I would do a group voice class. So that I'd have some people before that, some people after that, because I just knew that I have to get over that.
Brilliant.
Some time on the course, and I just thought, and why not try and get over
Shape
that
it now, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Good for you.
And I remember that being part of my presentation when we talk about our placements. And so that was great for me. And then the other placement was really great because we had such incredible time constraints, and I had to do a group warm-up for the whole school whilst the register was being taken. And so you suddenly work out really creative ways of how you can actually warm them up while still taking the register for about, 60 students, 80 students. So the placements really helped me to kind of focus on actually what's the most important point, need in this moment, in this moment, in this moment.
Brilliant. And I think we invigorate the conservatoire, the drama school sector by new processes and the ingenuity that you bring as new teachers, without a doubt. And I think finally, what would you say, just in a nutshell, just some little nub of advice? I'm going to go around this way. Sam, anything that you can say to the future? You could prepare yourself.
Just keep practicing that embodied knowledge of the voice work.
Before you come?
Just any voice work that you've been doing, keep practicing, and I feel you'll get that embodied knowledge. And then
Katie, thank you, Sam.
If you want to be a better teacher, come and do this course. You may already think, oh, I can teach this, I'm already doing it. I would challenge that, and I would go, come here. That's why I came to do it. So just take a punt and do it, because I thought, I'm already doing it. Why do I need to do this? Well, one, to get more knowledge and a different skill set, and that does count for something, but also I know I am a better teacher.
Cool. Fantastic. Hazel?
Following on from what Sam said in terms of constantly being in that place where you are experiencing your voice, experiencing the work. And I like to use the term, keep listening to others, keep listening to yourself, and trust yourself.
Listen, the space to listen.
Really listen, because that was, I think, something that I hadn't allowed myself. And in this world, we're constantly bombarded, especially with technological sounds, and we don't connect as much to the sounds of ourselves.
Fantastic. Alice?
I think that if it was someone who is about to apply for the course or is about to start the course, I'd say know the reasons why you want to do the course, but be really open for those shifting. You could come here going, I'm going to be an accent coach, and then you end up only doing practical voice. You could go, I never want to teach an accent, and that's all you end up doing. Be open to it all and the challenges that will inevitably bring to you, but don't cut yourself up from all the options that it can open up to you, I'd say.
Fantastic. That sounds good advice to all of us going forward in life, let alone anything else. Brilliant. So finally, just a little summation of the project that's captured your attention at the moment. Anything bubble around? What are you doing?
I am really looking forward to this summer. I'm going to be going back to the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland and voice coaching 4 shows. So 10 years after I graduated from there, I'm going to go back and work there. So I'm really excited about that.
How exciting.
Yeah.
Back to
that
the
feels
home turf.
Good. Yeah.
Changed.
Yeah. See what that brings. I don't know, but it'll be fun.
Great. Hazel, what are you up to?
Well, I've just been voice coaching on Richard II at the Globe at the Sam Wanamaker Playhouse. Ajawando was playing Richard, as well as co-directing with Lynette Linton.
This is a cool seminal production, isn't it? Don't be modest.
I know,
This is really special.
It is. Everyone's talking about this.
The whole world's talking about it, yeah.
And it's seminal because the production is performed by and supported by women of colour in every aspect of the production, and it has been an incredible journey. First of all, that we want to be in the rehearsal room and just talk about our experiences, and then getting on with the work in a way that when you hear this text being spoken first of all by women and then women of colour. There was actually on the first preview a man who was sat in front of me and when Sarah Niles, as Bolingbroke says, a true-born Englishman, he actually had a visceral response to it where he intake of breath and the person next to him kind of looked quite sharply at him. And when you see those kinds of reactions, you know what it means to people to hear these words anew and really fresh, really, really fresh.
You're having to really hear it afresh,
really
by
hear
that.
it.
Yeah.
And also just the fact that we're not playing the women as men, we're playing the women as women, but in their voices, in their bodies. And actually that's where the strength of it has really been.
That's what the reviews have picked up in so many ways, that you're not masking yourselves as anything else, that you are what you are.
Because we're British. We're all women of colour, but we're all British. And it's about seeing us.
Congratulations, I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Katie.
Like I said, I've just said yes to everything, and I have just taken on 4 new students. They're all foreign language students, all wanting to be or training to be actors. And I think I've got a Romanian, a Russian, Belgian, and something else from Dubai. So for me, it's suddenly realising I can hear something, and they all want to have a standard English accent. I can hear something, and the big challenges are they going to shift? And I've been working with the Romanian, and she is working really hard, and she's beginning to shift, and that to me is one of the most exciting things. I would never have been able to do that before MAVS, and now I am.
Marvellous.
So that for me is what I'm working on at the moment.
Congratulations. Sam, we've heard what you're working on. Anything you want to add?
I just am really enjoying it. It's a lot to take in, but I also feel like the 3 of you had said on placement, you get a lot of that understanding. Like at the London College of Music, every day is different. Whether a student has pharyngeal constriction or an accent thing that they want to work on, and now that I can hear those things or know what those things are, where the same thing, where I thought I knew what I was talking about, and now I'm like, whoa.
Now you know what
now I know what I'm talking
so
about.
That sounds like a good point. Yeah. And listen, I'm so proud of you all. It's great to have you gathered here. Thank you for giving up your time to come back and tell us all about yourselves. Thank you so much. Bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you,
Cheers.
Jane.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh.